Tonight I have the privilege of inviting a very special person to come forward to be with me on our bima, and that is Lara Shine. Come on up, Lara. You may or may not know Lara. You will after tonight, which I'm really excited about. And Lara, I invited to come speak tonight with me, sort of in a conversation, because for the past many months, we've all been watching what's been happening on college campuses. In fact, I was talking to a friend who's involved with some of the most important conversations recently, and he said that Yahya Sinwar is euphoric, to quote him, because when he sees and watches what's happening on college campuses, he thinks it's reflective of what's happening in America, and he feels like he is winning/being victorious. So what I wanted to do today was first to actually publicly just thank Lara, because what we see on college campuses is actually quite complicated, right? We see campuses, we see encampments, or at least we had for a long while. We see a lot of Palestinian flags all over the place. And what we know is that we have a lot of college students out there that are Jews and that are navigating all different colleges where there pretty much is anti-Semitism and anti-Israel sentiment on all campuses without exception. So Lara is one of those people who has been standing strong and standing proud and standing for Israel and unabashedly speaking out and not being deterred in her Jewish identity or presence on campus. So Lara, first, thank you.
Thank you.
And today, we don't have that much time. I wish we could do this for about an hour because I had the privilege of speaking to Lara for a long while. And while I read almost everything that I possibly can and think I understand college campuses, looking at her pictures, videos, and having a conversation with her was actually quite illuminating for me. So Lara, I'd love to start, and we're gonna be about 8 minutes or so. So I'd love to start by asking you if you will sort of share with everyone sort of how campus life at University of Michigan, where you're in the business school, has changed since October 7th.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you so much. So I am a rising junior at the University of Michigan, and first of all, I do want to say that Michigan has an amazing Jewish community. I've been so grateful for Chabad, Hillel, the Jewish Resource Center, and all the Jewish students. I'm also in a Jewish sorority that has been amazing during this time. However, it has definitely just led to me feeling this even more than a lot of my other peers. At Michigan, there have been everything from peaceful protests to violent protests. I have personally been shoved in a protest in a school building, filed a police report, nothing happened. Two of my best friends in my sorority were doxxed online for being Jewish and walking through the encampment. They were posting their names, addresses, saying, "Go gas the sorority that I'm in, everyone go kill these Jews, knock their teeth out." A lot of things were very scary and hurtful to hear, especially as a student living in this house. But it was definitely more than just a lot of hate speech. A lot of professors and teachers were only offering extra credit for students who attended the walkout for Gaza or canceled the rest of their classes and said, you have to attend one of these events that was for the pro-Palestinian rallies and reflect on it, and that's the only way you can get points. A lot of my friends, I was lucky enough to not be in any of those classes, as most of the business school classes are pretty concrete, just curriculum-based. However, a lot of the liberal arts courses do kind of have that approach where the professor can take the class however they want. One of my good friends is of Israeli descent, and she was randomly accused of cheating in her class, and out of the blue, randomly, she had said, "You're anti-Semitic, this is not true, I've never done this." And after kind of saying, like, going through the professor's background, calling him anti-Semitic, he came back an hour later and was like, "Okay, we'll just drop this." So it was just kind of a random claim, and that's not the first I've heard of this. A lot of my friends have been subject to lots of discrimination, both in the classroom, outside of the classroom, walking around campus. Michigan specifically, which before going to Michigan, I kind of thought of it as this great school filled with a ton of Jewish students who are very great activists and involved community members. I also soon learned that there's a very large Muslim community as well, which is amazing, and they are really great in the community. However, there's also a lot of that that's not so great for Jewish students. Dearborn is pretty close by, which is a very heavily populated area full of Muslims, and a lot of them are pro-jihadist, pro-Palestinian supporters. They would bus them to campus on a day-to-day basis of all ages. There were grown men walking around every day, walking by my sorority house saying, "You're all terrorists, let's kill you all," Hail Hitlering, a lot of my friends and I, pushing people, just the list goes on and on. It was definitely a pretty horrific time to be on campus. I called my parents every day crying, honestly, and I was very excited to go home, which was very disappointing as I've loved my experience at Michigan. It's been amazing up until this point. I think that something that a lot of the news and media is kind of not really hitting on here is that a lot of these encampments are just like a spew for Jew hatred. I walked by one night with my friends and they were playing this movie that was basically talking about how Jewish communities, you send them to Hebrew school where they learn to be part of the cult, and then they go to Jewish camp and they have soldiers from Israel come and teach them, and then they go to Birthright, and it was this whole made up story about how Jewish communities are kind of funneling students into becoming genocide enablers. And there were thousands of students there watching that, and they go to their class the next day, and one of my they say to all of us, "Oh, you're Jewish. Oh, you're aren't you going to go fight and kill people in Gaza?" And a lot of very hurtful things that are just kind of spewing in these encampments, as well as just a ton of propaganda, whether it be flyers that say "Death to America, kill all the Jews," or just a simple banner that a lot of students hold saying "Globalize the Intifada, long live the Intifada." And most of the students, when you ask them, what is the Intifada, they have no idea what they're talking about. Which that for me has probably been one of the most frustrating, as I've seen peers of my own doing these encampments become very involved, doing everything from vandalizing my own school. They painted all of our signs saying "Michigan kills" instead of University of Michigan. There's a very sacred spot on campus that they ripped up and painted with Palestinian colors, and it's seen as solidarity somehow, and it's not seen as vandalism, when I know if any of my friends did anything like that, it would probably not go over very well. So that's just definitely been something that I wanted to bring attention to, as a lot of these encampments are great, not great, but I understand how people can see it as standing with solidarity, but it's just become a kind of a hot pot for spewing Jew hatred on these campuses, and a lot of universities, including Michigan, are allowing this and enabling these students. The kid who pushed me, I had emailed the school probably around 10 times, all the deans, all my professors about this. He graduated a few weeks ago. He's now going to go in the workplace, and Michigan's telling him that this activity is okay. They're enabling these students to go in with a degree from such an amazing institution and continue to spew this in their workplace, future communities, which to me is probably the most alarming part. But it just makes me very appreciative for things such as Bethel and Jewish communities where everyone can come together and kind of understand and just fight the hate with love. And that's been something that's really been important to me at Michigan thus far. So, yeah.
So, Lara, people want to know, if you're going back, and I can say definitively
Yes.
Good. And Lara, I have two questions for you. The first is, what have the most difficult parts for you, what have the most difficult parts of being on campus there this year been for you personally? What's the impact on you as a student, or as a person, or as a Jew? And then the second question is, where are you finding your source of strength?
So probably the most difficult part for myself was just seeing a lot of students who are incredibly intelligent, incredibly smart people kind of fall for all of this propaganda, or just things that they're hearing, and adapting that as their own beliefs without really understanding the conflict. There were large posters all over Michigan's campus with a huge QR code, probably this big, that led you right to a link just filled with all these videos of the IDF killing people and all these facts that were all debunked online. If you like looked at anything online, you would realize that they're all totally fake, but I would walk through campus and see people scan it every day and be like, oh wow, take a flyer and probably join what they think is a movement that's for great things and for peace and freedom. However, it's actually just causing so much hate on campuses, and that was probably the most frustrating thing for myself, just walking through the encampment, which for me just symbolized a lot of hate and a lot of pain for my friends and I, as we had been personal victims of a lot of this. So that was definitely the most difficult part for me. But I was able to really find an amazing community at the Jewish Resource Center, which is kind of like Chabad Hillel of Michigan. It's the main thing. I joined a program called Maimonides and was welcomed into the community alongside a bunch of my friends. Every week we spent hours at the center just learning Torah, but also just learning about Jewish community. We were privileged enough to go a few times to Southfield, Michigan, and participate in Shabbatons and just unplug and not go on social media and look at all the news and see everything. And it was such an amazing experience, and it's definitely led me to take steps in my life to both unplug, but also continue to adopt that into my life. And I think just really seeing people in those communities who are unbothered. They're walking around every day, proud Jews, filled with pride, not worried about what's going on the campuses, kind of taught me, like, this is just the bubble that I'm in. I would call my parents and I would say, campus is crazy, everyone's going around screaming all this stuff, and they were like, okay, well, at home it's fine. This isn't happening everywhere. It's just the bubble that you're in. And that definitely gave me a sense of strength and understanding that, kind of taking a bigger look. And aside from the 20 universities that have had very awful experiences on campus regarding this, a lot of it isn't all that bad. And I mean, a lot of students aren't having these awful experiences, and understanding that this isn't the whole world. And we are Jewish people are continuing to be strong and full of pride and hopeful, and that's probably been the source of my strength thus far.
I love that. So Lara, one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's heading to college, or to a parent or grandparent that's sending a child or grandchild to college?
I think the most important thing would be, in my opinion, just to not be ignorant of all of this. I have some friends who are amazing, and they're also in the Jewish sorority, also Jews, but they're kind of not really like caring or getting involved in any of this. They just kind of like going around their day. I think it's been so gratifying to really learn about this, understand what's going on, and just continue to educate myself. So I think that's something that's really important, as well as just finding that community. I went to career sector for lower school, and then I went to a school that did not have many Jewish students at all. And I didn't realize how much being ostracized from a Jewish community really impacted me until going to Michigan. So I think really finding your people who have the shared values truly is really important. It's something that I didn't learn until going to college, how crucial it is to find those communities, surround yourself with other Jewish students, whether or not they are the same like amount of religious as you, it doesn't matter. Just shared values, I think, is very important, especially in times like this. So that would be my advice.
So thank you so much. So Lara, I just want to say a huge thank you for sharing with us some of the things that you're experiencing, and also standing as a proud Jew and a Zionist in this crazy, crazy time we're living in. And we hope you have a summer where you can exhale. Lara's heading to New York, where she's going to do some work in real estate.
Yeah, real estate.
Finance and real estate, and then head back to Ann Arbor. So keep us posted, and thank you.
Thank you.